The far right's campaign to explode the population. Behind the scenes at the first NATO conference, where a motley alliance is throwing out the idea of winning converts to their cause and trying to make their own instead. Now, basically, this is the thing that I want. I'm curious about, right? Pardon me. The far right's campaign to explode the population. In other words, having babies. Reproducing, carrying on your lineage, making sure that your DNA survives for thousands and thousands of years. The thing that's literally hard-coded into your firmware, because at the end of the day, we are monkeys with monkey brains, and we were literally born to fuck and then die. Fuck, raise children, die. The basis of all existence for every single living creature on the planet. Reproduce. That's what we're supposed to do. That's hard-coded into our firmware. That is who we are. That is what essentially makes us living entities that continue to survive. So, you just called being human far right. You just called being human far right. So we are already off to a fucking phenomenal start so far. Let's continue. The threat, we are told here this weekend, is existential, biological, epoch-defining. Economies will fail, civilizations will fall, and it will all happen because people aren't having enough babies, which is absolutely true, because here's one thing that I do like to point out to people. I hate taxation, I hate all that stuff, that's not news. However, the reason that all the old people are able to get their benefits and all their pensions is because there's a bunch of young people still in the workforce paying all of their taxes. Now, see, when you get to the point when there is a lot more old people than there is young people because nobody was having children, the system absolutely shits the bed and falls apart. And there's nobody else to look after those old people because unfortunately they didn't have babies. They wanted to focus on their careers, didn't they? Yeah. Women going out like, I don't want to sit at home and be a slave for some husband that loves me and provides for me. I want to go and serve a man that I barely fucking know. I want to go out in there and serve. I want to do that for a man who doesn't love me and would sack me at the drop of a hat. That's what I want. I want my career. Yeah, so at the end of your life, when you're lying there in that hospital bed, is Susan from accounting going to turn up and hold your hand? Is that what's going to happen? You know, you're not going to be sitting there surrounded by your army of children and grandchildren giving you the biggest send-off, you know, all of your achievements standing around you, thanking you for your hard work and your service, and then sending you off to heaven, knowing full well that you did a good job. But no, instead you wanted to sit there completely fucking alone in your hospital bed, staring out the window, thinking to yourself, but good goddamn, could I make a spreadsheet? Like, is that what you want? Yeah, sure. You know what? Fuck it. Have that. Good fucking luck. But basically, there's no kids around to take care of these old people, and there's not enough young people to actually pay the taxes to cover all of the benefits that these old people are entitled to according to the state. So, yeah, if you're not having babies, eventually the arse will collapse out of the system. That's just the way it works. This is the way you built the system, but then you made it extremely hard for people to actually have children by essentially pricing people out of it completely. Anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent. We've barely started. The entire global financial system, the value of your money, and every asset that you might buy with money is defined by leverage, which means its value depends on growth. Kevin Dolan, a 37-year-old father of 6 from Virginia, tells the crowd that is gathered to hear him speak. Every country in the developed world and most countries in the developing world face long-term population decline at a level that makes growth impossible to maintain. Dolan says, which means we are sitting on the bubble of all bubbles, like I've just described, basically. Financially, those chickens will come home to roost one day. The problem with socialist policies is eventually you run out of other people's money. Despite this grim prognosis, the mood is optimistic. It's early December, a few weeks before Christmas, and the 100-odd people who have flocked to Austin for the first NATO conference are here to come up with solutions. Though relatively small as conferences go, NatalCon has attracted attendees who are almost intensely dedicated to the cause of raising the US birth rate. The broader natalist movement has been gaining momentum lately in conservative circles, where anxieties over falling birth rates have converged with fears of rising immigration, and counts Elon Musk, who has nearly a dozen children, and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban among its proponents. Now, in regards to that, I love how the article's pure like, having babies bad, Mass immigration's totally fine though. I mean, exploding the population, like how is one exploding the population but the other one isn't? I mean, one of them sometimes literally explodes the population, but I'm just saying, why is it not treated the same? We all know why it's not treated the same. Basically, more white people. Fucking pollen. Jesus Christ, my eyes and my nose are on fire. Basically, more white people, bad, far right, explode population, bad thing. More doctors, engineers, and scholars, good thing, fantastic, wonderful. Like, it's just anti-whiteness. That's just all it is. Just at least be honest. At least be honest. Like, we know now, right? And we know that we know, but yet you keep lying. You keep trying to say no, it's not that. Like, come on. Like, we're past the little funny stage where we're trying to pretend to like each other. Let's just be fully honest with each other now. Natalism is often about more than raising birth rates, though that is certainly one of its aims. For many in the room, the ultimate goal is a total social overhaul, a culture in which child rearing is paramount. You mean like the way things were for hundreds of thousands of years? The way that, like we said, we're programmed to it in our hardware. Where child rearing is paramount. That's built into our fucking firmware. Jesus Christ, there is a reason that a little tiny 5'2" woman, whenever she's attacked, she just fucking, there's not really much you can do. But whenever her child is attacked, that woman has the strength of 10 cokeheads and Weatherspoons, right? There's a reason. You've heard the story of the woman that lifted a burning car off of her fucking child, right? There is a reason that women can do that. It's hard-coded into their fucking firmware. We have kids, and then we pass on our genes. It is then our job to defend those children as much as we can and provide for them as much as is possible so that they can then go on to do the same thing. Why do we do that? Because that is just how animals fucking are. It is the nature of being alive. And you're trying to sit there. You're arguing against existence. That's what it is. That's what makes this so fucking funny. Well, you're arguing against a certain demographic's existence, but still, like, you're basically saying it's bad to be human. It's bad to be any kind of living, because every animal does it. There are some animals where even if they don't fucking find a mate, they switch genders just so they can breed. I mean, Jesus Christ, an animal can alter its own chromosomes. Some of them can. Not humans. Not humans, right? But basically, that's how some animals can alter their own chromosomes to reproduce. That is how important it is for living creatures, right? Male animals will fight each other to the fucking death. And everyone, like, have you never seen that fucking, I think it was in the recent Planet Earth, there's like this giant fucking walrus that fought off about like 12 other giant fucking walruses just to mate with this fucking female. And he fucking wins and he's sitting pumping her. And there's like bits of him hanging off. He's missing an eye. There's just blood gushing from him, right? That's the fact is that even though he's like that and he still fucking went in and got that poontang, just shows how strong the programming is. Right? There's a reason that the porn industry doesn't have to fucking advertise, right? It's the only industry that doesn't have to pay any money for adverts because we are born to seek that stuff out, unfortunately. Like, don't watch porn. But anyway, honestly, like, people should have the freedom to make it, but can we at least acknowledge that it does fuck you up, right? But still, you're arguing against the very... basically being. You're arguing against being. You're arguing against existence itself. That's why this stuff is so stupid. That's why antinatalists are complete fucking idiots. Right? Something went wrong with them. We shouldn't bring any more children into this bad world. How about instead of getting everybody to stop breeding, you try and make the world better? How about putting the energy into that instead? How about that? Why not do that instead? Antinatalists are like the fucking equivalent of sovereign citizens, where the type of change they want, they see the energy they put into their bullshit could be put into making some actual change that would fix the core issue that they're actually annoyed about. Right, it's just fucking, I hate it. I hate this fucking nonsense. But anyway, NatalCon's emphasis on childbirth notwithstanding, there are very few women in the cavernous conference room of the Line Hotel. They're all at their jobs. focusing on their careers. The mostly male audience includes people of all ages, many of whom are childless themselves. That was a little dig at them, like, oh, sorry, like, men want to, like, have kids and have the sheer absolute, like, joy of raising children. Raising children's fucking excellent, man. Children are so funny. See, just like the shit they do, and like the random situations that you get them in, like, you know, say they, why are you, why are you standing on the windowsill in the conservatory, smashing two rubber ducks together while going ba 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 ba? It's funny. I'm sorry, that's funny to me. That shit's hilarious. So he's like, get her down from there, and I'm like, no, let her cook. She's she's being funny right now. But anyway, I don't. That's why. Why are you digging at men that want to have children? Huh, the mostly male audience who've childless men. Yeah. Have you got kids? Whoever wrote this article? I bet you don't. I bet you fucking don't. But where was that? Some of the women in attendance, however, have come to Austin with their children in tow. A visual representation of the desired outcome of this weekend. A woman walking around with her lovely, beautiful children. Magical, absolutely fantastic. Brings joy to your heart to see that. Women and, like, happy little children running around. The way society should be, and essentially has been, and is supposed to be like, because, again, that's hard-coded into our firmware. As if to emphasise the reason we're all gathered here today, a baby babbles in the background while Dolan delivers his opening remarks. I like baby babbling. I mean, I've got little Morag, she's like a year, she babbles constantly. And when you hear it at night, sometimes it's scary. Sometimes, like, you're sitting, like, you'll just be sitting in the house and all you hear is, ah, la, 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 la. It's terrifying. Just picture it at night and it's, like, dark and then you just hear that coming from her room. It's terrifying. Right, baby babbling's nice. Not at 1 in the morning when it's pitch black and you can't really see. That's when it gets a little bit scary. Broadly speaking, the people who have paid as much as $1,000 to attend the conference are members of the New Right, a conglomeration of people in the populist wing of the conservative movement. I still love so much that the word populist, caring about the considerations of the common man, is being treated as a dirty word by the privileged elite media, because of course they do. They don't give a fuck about the cares of the common man. You're just supposed to shut up, turn up at your job, pay your taxes, and just let the immigrants run away with your daughters. All that stuff, that's what you're supposed to do. God, these poors and their fucking problems. How dare these fucking poor people approach me with their problems? Why can't they just shut up and be good little wage slaves for me so I can write articles? I can write articles about how shit life is. And hold on, in fact, where was I? I've lost my point. I'm very passionate about this subject, as you can tell, so I keep losing my fucking place. Populist wing of the conservative movement who believe we need seismic changes to the way that we live now, and who often see the past as the best model for the future they would like to build. Well, the past got us here, didn't it? See how if things have actually worked out pretty fucking well so far, and then we change it and things get worse? Doesn't it make sense to, well, let's go back to the thing that was working? Doesn't that make sense? I think it makes sense. And who often blah blah blah. Their ideology, such as it exists, is far from cohesive, and factions of the New Right are frequently in disagreement. Wow, that's how unusual for a certain political group to not all disagree and be in a hive mind with each other. In fact, wait, no, that makes so much more sense. Because clearly a leftist wrote this article, they all have their certain set beliefs. You're not allowed to have your own beliefs and pick and choose the ones that make sense to you. When you're on the left, you believe the entire fucking thing, or you get taken out behind the chemical shed and get two in the back of the head. Right, whereas on the right, you know, especially in libertarians, Jesus fucking Christ, on the right, we all have, you know, there's certain things that we do all believe, but you're rarely going to find someone where it's like, I believe all of the exact same things as everybody else in the group. That doesn't fucking happen on the right. That doesn't happen. There'll be people that disagree on some stuff, whereas on the leftist, they're like, oh, is that the cool thing? Yeah, I believe that now. I want to belong to the group. And everything like that. So yeah, obviously that didn't, like, this was such a foreign, crazy concept to this journalist. But this weekend, these roughly aligned groups from the libertarian-adjacent tech types to the Heritage Foundation staffers, along with some who likely have no connection with traditionally conservatives or far-right causes at all, have found a unifying cause in natalism. I love how you're treating it as if, oh, this is the thing that the right wing are gathering around. It's not. It's human nature. We found this new thing. The human nature. It's human fucking nature. It's literally what we're programmed to fucking do. At first glance, this conference might look like something new, a case for having kids that is rooted in a critique of the market-driven forces that shape our lives and the shifts that have made our culture less family-oriented, because the way it was back in the day, you had a bunch of kids, and then your kids would have a bunch of kids, and then when you grew old, everybody took care of you, just like you had to do with your parents and your grandparents. That was just the way it worked. However, now we have kids getting poached from the countryside to go live in the big city. And I found this coffee place. It's $18 for like an espresso. So nice. Like, fucking, that's what's happening. Basically, the same thing that happened at the start of the Industrial Revolution. All the fucking city elites just kept poaching our children from us with promises of wonderful lives and fucking big sex lives and excellent coffee shops and all that stuff. And then they go there and they're absolutely miserable because everything is expensive. Everything is fucking miserable. And if they're walking down the street, they'll just get randomly punched in the face. Like, they're fucking shitholes. But for some reason, people still keep going to them because unfortunately it's where most of the jobs are. Well, mummy and daddy are back home with no kids to look after them. You know, maybe they'll get a phone call once a fucking month, but you know, who fucking knows? As Nolan later tells me in an email, declining birth rates are primarily the fault of default middle-class life path offered by our educational system and corporate employers, which Dolan says is in obvious competition with starting a family. Now, one thing we do absolutely have to acknowledge right now, we're all like big massive capitalists and stuff like that at the end of the day. However, everyone's like, capitalism's causing this. But no, crony capitalism is what we have now. Basically, the way it works is capitalism is a giant game of football, right? But you know you're always going to win when you've got the referee in your pocket, right? The referee being the government. Right? That's why there isn't a lot of competition, because everybody says, under libertarianism, corporations would control everything and they would, like, buy the rain and all that stuff. Really? Well, then why haven't all the corporations donated every single fucking penny they have into every libertarian party and turned them into the biggest fucking political powerhouses, which they could overnight? Really easily. The libertarians win, they dissolve the government. Hey ho, Jeff Bezos now owns fucking Turkey or some shit like that. Why aren't they doing that? Because they're fucking smart and they've done the math and they've realised that that is not what would fucking happen. Right? They've realised that they would flounder because all of a sudden all the regulations are gone, which means all of this competition can now flourish, and places like Amazon, Google and all the fucking big guys that monopolise the shit out of everything would not fucking survive that onslaught of competition. Right? Because it would be the nice companies that do things properly and do not fucking spy on you that would win. Right? And the big corporations know that, which is why the big corporations don't donate to libertarianism, because they know they wouldn't own everything. They would actually get fucking slaughtered. Right? That is what would happen. Right, and also the way the system's built is, you see, even just for existing or owning any kind of property, you have to pay taxes, which means you then have to work for these companies, and they like that and they enjoy that system. Whereas if the government collapsed, everyone would just go back to subsistence farming, and Amazon's like, where are all my employees that have to piss into fucking bottles and everything? And then Amazon fucking shits the bed completely, because who the fuck wants to work for them, right? Do you see where I'm coming from now? But anyway, I'm going on so many tangents with this shit. But basically, the system has to be done a lot better so that people can have families. We should stop shaming people. Housewives not really a job. Housewives not... My wife fucking slogs. She slogs. It is a hard, difficult fucking job. It is hard. It is really fucking difficult. So that's why housewives not a job. Jesus Christ. Housewife is 10 fucking jobs. Fuck me, it's really difficult, it's really hard, but my wife works really fucking hard. I see my wife as like an employed woman, essentially. I'm employed in like 6 different fucking jobs, right? So we should stop, I'm a housewife, and then people like turn their noses up, and it's like, fuck you, her job's harder than yours, fucking wind your neck in. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I am so fucking passionate about this fucking subject. These systems, he believes, have created a consumer-driven, hedonistic society that requires its members to be slavishly devoted to their office jobs, often at the expense of starting a family, which is 100% absolutely true. basically the way that this economy went is especially now during the cost of living crisis, it is impossible for a family to live on one wage unless the husband is in like the top 5% of earners. Right? It basically is almost impossible. Right? So the system does have to change, because what would happen is, see, if the state fell apart and there was no taxation anymore, a lot of people would just go back to subsistence farming. What would libertarianism look like? Look at so many places in fucking Africa that don't have regulation. People have their little homestead, their little bit of land, and they plant just whatever fucking crops they want. Maybe they do other odd jobs. You know, farming is if you're doing it on a smaller scale, like obviously, I'm not going into it, right? But basically, they do farming and they do other jobs as well. And that is what the vast majority of people would also do. They would be able to work for themselves. They might even just start their own company. The big companies and the government and all that don't like that. And basically, everything's been engineered so that the mum and dad have to work. Right, which means they can't have kids, especially now when having kids would be such a fucking monumental expense, right? Or they do have kids, but mummy and daddy are always fucking working, so who's getting to raise the kids? Those nice little teachers with the funny hair colours and the ambiguous genders, right? What good fun. So basically, things do have to change so that a family can survive on one wage. That is so everybody's like, but it's capitalism that's... No, it's crony capitalism that's caused it. Capitalism is where the referee is a completely fucking neutral party while everybody else plays ball. Crony capitalism is where the red team have paid off the fucking referee who turned up today in a fucking Mercedes-Benz with a Rolex on his fucking arm, and he's always going to rule in favour of the red team. That's crony capitalism, right? So not all capitalism on its own, actual free market capitalism, is good. What we have right now is not free market capitalism, especially when you want to start any kind of company and you need to pay fucking six-figure sums to acquire the licenses to like make sandwiches. I need to find that article. Where if you want to be a company that just mass produces sandwiches, you need to pay something like fucking six figures just to get the licenses to be able to do that at scale. It's fucking mental. Right, so basically, remove all of that, make it easier for people to make money, get rid of taxation, make it easier for people to actually survive on one wage, and then you just let nature take care of the rest because you won't have to do anything. Basically, you don't have to tell people to fuck. Right, they'll just do it. They'll just fucking do it. Why? Because again, it's hard-coded into our fucking firmware. But over the course of the conference, these seemingly novel arguments for having children fade and give way to a different set of concerns. Throughout the day, speakers and participants hint at the other aspects of modern life that worried them about future generations in the US and other parts of the West. Divorce, gender integration, wokeness, declining genetic quality. Oh my. Anyway, divorce. I think divorce is really bad. Basically, I think it's mainly because, as well, as whenever, if a guy divorces a woman, he's a piece of shit. If a woman divorces a guy, you go girl, like fuck it, that type of shit has to stop, right? There's far too much pride in people. I think it's because a lot of people, like, we've all done it online. Like, we've all argued with fucking people on the internet, and even if we know we're wrong, we fucking don't drop it. Right? You know, that may be fine and well on the fucking internet, but in a relationship, especially when you have children, no. You have to learn to swallow your pride. Right? And also, one of the most fucking key, absolutely important things, choose the right partner. Don't go for the blonde with the big tits because she's probably an absolute fucking maniac. Go for someone who is mentally stable and understanding. Someone that is willing to listen, and especially someone that is willing to compromise. Now, as a 17-year-old or something like that, that's, you know, you've got your high school sweetheart, how the fuck are you going to know that? I don't know. Fucking figure it out, son. Right? It's difficult. I completely fucking grant you. I absolutely grant you that. But, hey-ho. It's just the way... Dating's messy, especially fucking nowadays. Jesus Christ, thank fuck I'm married. Many of the speakers and attendees see natalism as a way of reversing these changes. As the speakers chart their roadmaps for raising birth rates, it becomes evident that for the most dedicated of them, the mission is to build an army of like-minded people, starting with their own children, who will reject a whole host of changes wrought by liberal democracy, pseudo-liberal democracy, be honest, and who perhaps one day will amount to a population large enough to effect more lasting change. Is this the if there is hope that lies with the Zoomers argument? Apparently a lot of the Zoomers are getting fed up with this woke bullshit. Because this is the thing is, the next generation always rebels against the previous generation. That's just the way it is. right? I've made this joke multiple times where there's going to come a day where the mum and dad are sitting there with mohawks and piercings and fucking ambiguous genders and all that. And their son walks in, clean cut, clean shaven, very, very nice suit, smart tie. And he comes in and goes, Mum and Dad, I'm a conservative. Get out of this house. We don't allow disgusting things like that in here. I want to start a family. Oh, my boy. I can't believe my Zizamzel. Mum and Dad, I'm a man. Oh, we thought you were non-binary. How could you lie to us? Like, the next generation rebels against the previous generation. But see, because these generations right now, especially all the woke ones, are so much more authoritarian, holy fucking shit. Holy shit. That, like I've said many times, that pendulum is going to fucking swing back hard. Someone's getting a nosebleed. This conference suggests there's a simple way around the problem of majority rule, breeding a new majority, one that looks and sounds just like them. What's the problem? It sounds lovely. Goddamn, you've sold the idea to me already. Like, fucking, I don't see the issue. In recent years, various factions of the old and new right have coalesced around the idea that babies might be the cure for everything that is wrong with society. Yeah, we should be raising people to be good and decent people. And to look out for their own. Because let's face it, no one fucking else is. No one else is, right? So it's our job to fucking look out for each other, right? That's the point. That's the whole point of it. I see no issue with that at all. In the United States and other parts of the developed West, it's not a new argument. Natalists made similar claims in the early 20th century when urbanization drove birth rates down and European immigration kept the US population afloat. Then, too, people attributed the drop in fertility rates to endemic selfishness among young people. It's not selfishness, I'll admit, right? One thing I absolutely will grant people is, yeah, there are some people that are like, I don't want to have babies. I want to drink Lamborghini in my New York apartment with like 3 cats. Meh. Like, yeah, there are people like that, but there are a lot of people who absolutely do want to have kids, but financially, it's just you can't do it. You just cannot fucking do it. Right, financially, you'll just end up on the fucking street, then social services come in and take your kids away because you're poor through fucking no fault of your own. How dare you want to follow your natural animal instincts of passing on your genes to the next generation? How dare you? Right, so I will say there is an element of the laziness. I don't want to have kids. I just want to live a hedonistic life or something like that. Yeah, there's an element of that, but there are also people who full and truly want to have children, but financially they just fucking can't because of the way the crony capitalism system has been built. Now again, capitalism is not at fault. Crony capitalism is. And it's the state. The state. How funny is that? The state's always the fucking problem. Throughout it all, some religious conservative cultures have continued to see raising large broods as a divine mandate. I just think it's a nice thing to do. Who doesn't want a lot of kids? They're funny. I think they're really funny. Like, some of the shit my kids do just makes me laugh. Morag can crawl. She can crawl no problem. Right, but she chooses not to. She does a thing that I call the booty scoot. Right, where she sits on her bum and she kicks her legs and literally goes and like scoots. It's the funniest thing to see. I think it's hilarious. But she just scoots along the floor, like coming towards you. It looks weird because it almost looks like she's floating. Right, I don't know how she does it, right, but she just starts like scooting across the floor. Yeah, it's hilarious, and it cracks me up every single time. That's how she approaches me when she wants picked up, levitating across the floor like a little creepy baby. But it's funny. I love it. I think it's lovely. Raising large broods is divine mandate. White supremacists, meanwhile, have framed their project as a way of ensuring a future for white children. That's just normal. Again, it's fucking human nature. Ensuring a future for white children, right? Breeding. Right, breeding. And I see no problem with that. I see no problem. Why are we not allowed to breed? Look, I'm very, very 14. I'm not 88. I'm not 88 and I never fucking will be, right? I'm just saying, I don't trust anyone to be in charge of me, right? However, like I said, No one else is fucking looking out for us. As declared by David Lane, a founding member of the white nationalist group, The Order. More recently, natalist thinking has emerged among tech types interested in funding and using experimental reproductive technologies, and conservatives concerned about falling fertility rates and what they might mean for the future labour force of the United States and elsewhere in the developed world. Yeah, I think, don't quote me on this, Google this and double check it, but I think sperm counts have dropped by 50% since the 70s. I believe it's like 50% since the 70s, and I think the major cause of it is basically carcinogens and all that type of stuff, toxins in the air, toxins in the water, and also microplastics. Microplastics are the biggest driver of it as well. Jesus Christ. Fucking pollen. A gardener that has hay fever. Fuck's sake. But yeah, I believe it's the microplastics that's causing it. Don't quote me on that. You'll need to have a look into that yourself. The conservative think tanks, the Centre for Renewing America and the Heritage Foundation, the latter of which was represented at NatalCon, have proposed policies for a potential second Trump administration that would promote having children and raising them in nuclear families, including limiting access to contraceptives, banning no-fault divorce, and ending policies that subsidize single motherhood. Ending the policies that subsidize single motherhood, absolutely, because basically people, like I've said, people are very, very prideful because I can leave him and he'll have to pay me alimony and he'll have to pay me fucking XYZ and then I'll get all these kind of benefits from the state and stuff like that. Fuck that guy. Fuck sitting down and resolving our problems like adults, for the benefit of our children. I'm just going to go away and the government can be their daddy. And I'm right, yeah, pull that away. Oh, shit. I guess you're going to have to be an adult and sit down and actually talk about your problems instead of fucking running away from them and then punishing the guy afterwards with alimony and child support, which he'll go to prison for if he doesn't pay. How about that? Yeah, some of those I do agree with. The contraceptive part I don't agree with. Banning no-fault divorce I don't agree with either. Because basically, the guy or the woman could be a fucking monster. They could be just a horrible piece of shit. Right, there should be, like, no-fault divorce, yeah. There should be, yeah. Maybe I misunderstand what no-fault is, sorry. Haven't looked much into divorce. Don't intend to get it done. However, ending policies that subsidise single motherhood, absolutely. Absolutely. Take away all benefits. Though Dolan opens the conference by talking about the potential economic consequences of a global birth dearth, he and the other NatalCon speakers aren't primarily concerned with the utilitarian arguments for raising birth rates. I'm not trying to have grandkids so they can fund Medicare, Dolan says. We're here because we agree that people are beautiful, that life is beautiful, and that it should go on. I see no problem with that statement whatsoever. Dolan, a conservative Mormon and a former Booz Allen Hamilton data scientist, resigned from his job in 2021 after a group of self-proclaimed anti-fascist Mormon activists exposed his anonymous Twitter account, which tied him to the far-right Deseret nationalist movement. Having lost his livelihood and security clearance, Dolan started the Exit Group, a fraternity of like-minded men who are preparing for the supposed collapse of American society and who, as of recently, have taken on the decline in birth rates as their pet cause. There is a decline in birth rates, though. It's happening. And it's not just the fertility, there's also the financial factors as well, and social factors of people that, I don't want kids. Gonna live with my cats forever. Like, fuck off. In his podcast, Dolan said he was first alerted to the problem of demographic collapse by a member of the Exit Group, which claims to have 171 members. Dolan came up with the idea for NatalCon after watching The End of Men, Tucker Carlson's documentary about collapsing testosterone levels in the West. The global drop in sperm concentrations has indeed puzzled scientists for decades and is believed to be one of the factors that has contributed to the global downturn in birth rates. But NatalCon's organisers and attendees seem more interested in combating social institutions like corporate employment and the educational system set up to support it, because you can't deny that they are like one of the biggest causes behind it, though. Like, it just factually it is. That, in Dolan's words, have suppressed fertility by being hostile to life. Most of the first day of the conference is spent defining the problem. In a nutshell, sperm counts are historically low, our bodies are full of microplastics, public schools are indoctrinating children against the good Christian values with which they were raised, Oh, that's true. Dating apps have gamified romance, tricking lonely singles into believing that a better prospect is always around the corner. Women have been convinced that they can have it all, kids and a career and endless vacations and so much more, only to end up unhappy, infertile, and alone. I'm laughing at that. I'm laughing at that, right? It's not funny. I'm trying to quit. A lot of people I, I like articles like this, but I do feel very, very bad for the person when they reach their 60s and realise that there's no one. All their friends are married, everybody's off and like they've all retired and everything, and this person just has no one now. And when you're in your 60s, you can't really go out and like party with the girls downtown and take a nice little boy toy home. I mean, maybe if it's me, but but like I'm just saying, and they always say I feel so alone. I've never basically at the end it's lonely. If you've not got kids or a family, like everybody's fucking dead and all that as well. At the end, it's very very lonely, right? And I would not want that for anyone, right? I think that's awful. I think that's awful where you have, you had a life of fun, hedonistic experiences, you had your laugh and everything like that. But see that loneliness at the end, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I think it's a really terrible way to round out your life. So yeah, that's awful. The speakers who lay out this bleak state of affairs are a motley crew of the extremely online right, many of whom go by the website formerly called Twitter handles, rather than their names. Wow, I wonder why they do that. Maybe it's because there's journalists like you hiding in the fucking crowd so that you can contact their employers, you fucking arsehole. Via Zoom, anonymous Twitter's user Raw Egg Nationalist warns us about endocrine disruptors, hey, Raw Egg Nationalist, and everything from perfume to bottled water. I mean, yeah. Yeah, they're fucking everywhere. Ben Braddock, an editor at the conservative magazine IM 1776, claims that antidepressants and birth control pills have permanent detrimental effects on women's fertility. Together, the speakers paint a dire picture of a society that has lost its way, abandoning fundamental biological truths and dooming itself to annihilation in the process. The solution, of course, is to have more babies. Peachy Keenan, a pseudonymous writer affiliated with the conservative Claremont Institute, urges attendees to seize the means of reproduction, as in to outbreed liberals who are already hobbling their movement by choosing to have just a couple of children. A lot of them are having like no children. A lot of them are having no children at all, or none at all. Fuck's it, I should have just kept reading. Another 3 words. We can use their visceral hatred of big families to our advantage, Keenan says. The other side is not reproducing. The antinatalists are sterilising themselves, which a lot of them are. However, in order to combat that and keep their bullshit going, what they've done is they've infiltrated the schools so they don't need to have children. They'll just indoctrinate yours. Which is why a lot of people should keep a very, very close eye on what children are learning in schools. Here lies the project spelled out in detail. The people who disagree have bloodlines that are slowly going to die out. To speed up that process, to have this particular strain of conservative natalist ideology become dominant quickly in the United States, everyone in this room has to have more kids and fast. But it's only when the speakers get to who should have babies and how they should raise them that their deeper concerns and the larger anxieties behind this conference become clear. The goal, as put by Indian Bronson, the pseudonymous co-founder of the elite matchmaking service Keeper, is more better people. What do they mean by this? But the speakers lack consensus on the meaning of the word better, as they do on the subject of using technology to encourage the best and brightest among us to breed. I mean, that to be completely fair, that was the plot of Idiocracy. Basically, all the really smart people were all focusing on their careers, and they all died out, and all that was left was the dumb people, and all the dumb people just kept breeding. And they were living in like an automated AI society that was built, by their not predecessors, by their ancestors, the smart ancestors from long, long, long ago, and they all live among this technology and have no idea how any of it works. Basically, Isaac Asimov's foundation. Can everybody tell that I've read that recently? Keenan, who has previously celebrated her sense that it is now acceptable to say white genocide is real, says better means conservative. Pat Fagan, the director of the Marriage and Religion Institute at the Catholic University of America, says good children are the product of stable two-parent Christian households away from the corrupting influences of public school and sex ed. Christian couples, he adds, have the best, most orgasmic sex. Like, I mean, citing no research or surveys to support this. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not going to ask people about that. To protect these households, we must abolish no-fault divorce, declares Britt Benjamin, a lawyer with waist-length curly red hair. Why did you have to bring that up? Until relatively recently, Benjamin was married to Patrick Friedman, grandson of the economist Milton Friedman, the founder of the Seasteading Institute, a Peter Thiel-backed effort to build new libertarian enclaves at sea. I'll need to look into that. And to ensure that these children grow up to be adults who understand their proper place in both the family and the larger social order. We need to oust women from the workforce and reinstitute male-only spaces, where women are disadvantaged as a result. Shampoo magnate and aspiring warlord Charles Haywood says, prompting cheers from the men in the audience. Jesus Christ, we've been filming for a while here. There's a big article. I've obviously had a lot to say. Most of it's shite. But anyway, Haywood's final words to the audience elicit raucous applause. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and its progeny are probably the single most destructive set of laws in American history, and all should be wiped forever. I mean, right, to be fair, there is a major libertarian argument for dissolving the Civil Rights Act, and before everybody screams about it, shut the fuck up, I don't care. A few women told me afterwards they and others disagreed with Haywood. Notably, most of the speakers do not make a case for more immigration to counter the trend of declining birth rates. Immigrants can't solve our population problem, Dolan says, because they'll eventually realise they were brought here to pay into social security for old white people. Like, remember how I spoke about before, paying into the system, they need younger people to pay the taxes to cover all the old people. Yep, that will happen one day. They will realise, and shit will hit the fucking fan. Shit will hit the fan. On X, Dolan used the word replacement to refer to immigration. I mean, what else could you call it? Some at the conference are interested in the genetics of the children they believe everyone should be having. Evolutionary biologist Diana Fleischman and writer Jonathan Anomaly, that sounds like a stage name for like a punk musician, argue that genetics are destiny. I shouldn't say good quality children, Fleischman says, after speaking at length about how people with mental illnesses are statistically likely to marry other mentally ill people and pass those genes along to their children, suggesting some children are indeed biologically better than others. Razib Khan, a geneticist and science blogger who in 2015 was hired and quickly fired by the New York Times opinion section after Gawker reported on his ties to racist far-right publications, illustrates the problem of current demographic trends in the West compared to other regions by pointing to Ethiopia, which had nearly as many births in 2020 as the entire European continent. This is the future we're already in, says Khan, who is Bangladeshi American. Many of you have young children. They will live to see this world. Over and over throughout the conference, anxieties over the drop in birth rates, the issue that brought the speakers and audience together, gave way to fears that certain populations were outbreeding their betters. Though few speakers explicitly mentioned race, the conference provided an opportunity for those with genuine concerns about population decline to join forces with and perhaps be influenced by those who espouse racist or regressive views. It's not regressive. Your shit's regressive. No, you. During the second day of the conference, a closed-door phone-off event dedicated to brainstorming ways to reverse the population crisis, VIP ticket holders mingled with Jared Taylor, the publisher of the white supremacist magazine American Renaissance, according to multiple people in attendance who wanted to remain anonymous because having their name linked to the conference would jeopardize their work. Because, like I said, it's not safe to be right-wing and employed these days, especially if you want to just not have your people die out. You know, I guess, yeah, we're just supposed to roll over in the fucking in the desert and just die. That's what they want. Roll over in the desert and die. If you don't, we'll get you fired. The following day, I talked with Malcolm and Simone Collins, the husband and wife founder of pronatalist.org, who went viral in 2023 after the Telegraph dubbed them the elite couple breeding to save mankind. They are entrepreneurs and investors and previously served as co-CEOs of a travel agency company. Simone is also currently running for a seat in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. This is a long article, Jesus. The Collinses tell me they want to promote a plurality of cultures and protect everyone's right to be weird. Malcolm says they want to make their movement a big tent and were initially worried about what kinds of people the conference would attract. Are they going to be like no transgender people reading kids' books? Are they going to be racist nut jobs? It's a real concern, he says. I mean, I don't like transgenders reading children books. Like, if you want to have like a drag show that adults can attend and all that, then like whatever, that's fine. But just not kids. Come on. The Collinses, parents of 4 children, present themselves as rationalists, techies, trying to solve the problem, trying to solve the looming depopulation crisis by any means necessary. Simone was pregnant with the 4th child during the conference. That baby, Industry Americus Collins, was born in April. You did not name the baby that. You did not name the baby that. Industry. You named your baby Industry. Right, no. No. No thanks. With their 3rd and 4th children, the Collinses used a pre-implantation genetic test that allowed them to select an embryo with optimum genetic makeup. Even though we did IVF, I'm fine with using IVF. I'm fine with like see stuff that will get rid of like really debilitating diseases. See if it's a case of if we make a little tweak here, we can get rid of Down syndrome, we can get rid of motor neuron syndrome, we can get rid of like XY diseases and stuff like that. Fine. See, as soon as you start to get into the designer babies type thing, that's toying a little bit too much. That's toying too much. I don't like that. But they too are far more interested in the cultural implications of declining fertility rates than their fascination with reproductive technologies might lead you to believe. The couple is committed to fighting the urban monoculture that they claim has tricked a generation of young Americans into spending their most fertile years chasing professional achievements and personal fulfillment at the expense of building a family. Because bear in mind, there was a time where, see, if you worked and saved up for like 6 months, you could just buy a house. Like, I don't mean like a mortgage, like from the banker end. If you worked for like a year, like still living with your parents, and you just scrimped and saved every penny, you could just buy a house. There was a time that was like that, and it was a glorious, wonderful time. That's when the women just stayed at home because you could fucking live after. You could go on fucking vacation. You could hop on a Pan Am flight. Remember Pan Am? You could hop on a Pan Am flight and go wherever the fuck you wanted. Well, man, you could live really, really well back then as long as you put the work in. But nowadays, you could be fucking pulling 80-hour weeks and you'll be lucky that you're allowed to afford a pot noodle at the end of the week in a fucking flat that you don't own because you're a fucking rentoid because you've been absolutely priced the fuck out of ever even thinking of owning a fucking house. Right? Again, it's a massive problem and it does need to be addressed. The monoculture is not an evil thing, Malcolm says over Panang curry and pineapple fried rice at a Thai restaurant the day after the conference's VIP event. I don't know. Why do they need to mention that shit? It's fucking irrelevant. But he continues, it's built on false promises. It promises people, if you join us, you can do whatever makes you happy, so long as it doesn't interfere with other people's quality of life, and you can be affirmed for whoever you want to be. In reality, though, they become casualties of an elitist scam. The urban monoculture, Malcolm explains, breeds childlessness, and therefore must poach other people's children to survive. Like I said, the cities just steal all the young kids out of the countryside, which is happened since the start of the Industrial Revolution. It lures them out of small towns and into large cities, encourages them to eschew their religious upbringings in favour of hedonistic secularism, and then leaves them to die alone. Thank you for helping my great big multi-billion-dollar corporation. Now you can die alone. And no, Susan from accounting will not come to hold your hand at the end. Susan either has her own family or she's already dead. Malcolm compares the urban monoculture to the boarding schools the Canadian government forced native children into, in which Indigenous children were forcibly assimilated into white culture. The US government had similar boarding schools. It doesn't matter if you're trying to convert them to a culture that's closer to mine, what you're doing is wrong, he says. When I tell him the boarding schools were a state programme, not a voluntary form of acculturation, Malcolm becomes animated. This is a state project. What's going on with the public schools is a state project. The mechanisms that the urban monoculture uses to deconvert people are primarily a state-funded educational system, he says. In a subsequent email, he describes the urban monoculture as one of the descendants of European imperialism. The most important and effective way to fight the monoculture, Malcolm later tells me via email, is building school systems not dedicated to cultural genocide. The goal, though, the Collinses tell me, is not to convert the childless or even to counteract the phenomena that contribute to the unplanned childlessness that has become endemic among millennials. It's to encourage people with a lot of children to have even more. Some people matter less than other people in getting fertility rates up, Malcolm says. Helping somebody who has 4 kids but wants 8 is more important than helping someone who has none but wants 1. Ultimately, this is what unites the Collinses with the more trad wings of the natalist movement. From the nativists to the Christian nationalists, pushing back on social and cultural changes they see as imposed on them by outside forces. To do that, these conference attendees have coalesced around a solution that won't require them to persuade skeptics to join their cause. If everything goes as planned, the competition will go extinct on their own. Let's hope. All the natalists have to do is have enough kids so that in a generation or two, they'll be the ones who inherit the earth. And there we are at the end of the article. But I mean, that is what happens, though. Everybody talks about eternal life. You should always seek eternal life. Kids. Have kids. Your DNA and the memories of all your ancestors and all of their achievements will pass down forever and ever and ever until the sun fucking blows up. That's the game. That's eternal life. I mean, one day my body's going to die, but I will live on through my children. And one thing is, the anti-natalist movement is absolutely fucking stupid, right? The natalist movement I vibe with because A, it's fucking human nature. You're programmed to fucking do it. And also, as someone with 2 young kids myself, they were the greatest achievement I have ever done in my entire life. I mean that. Fuck the million subs, fuck the fucking comedy career, fuck all that fucking stuff. All that shit pales in comparison to my 2 kids. My 2 kids are my greatest achievement, and we hope to have more. Right, everybody knows that me and my wife did IVF. We have one more embryo that we've got that's good to go, and the next few years we'll probably be using that. So, yeah, greatest thing. And basically having kids changes who you are as a person, right? I was a rather lazy guy. I didn't really give a crap about much. I half-arsed a lot of things if I didn't really find them that important. I wasn't taking really good care of myself and stuff like that. You know, I had a very, very good work ethic, but my work ethic, even though I've always had a job, it was money to go out partying at the weekend and buy myself nice stuff. Like, that was, even though I had a good work ethic, you know, I wasn't using the outcome of that for anything positive. Now, what I want doesn't fucking matter anymore. I've got kids, and what fucking matters is them and their future. So now, as a person, overall, I have improved. I have improved massively, you know, unconsciously in a lot of areas because of my children. Because all of a sudden, what I want doesn't matter anymore. I'm now responsible for 2 little beautiful girls that drive me fucking mental sometimes and constantly pull on my fucking beard, but I love them to death, and I would die for them. And that is an amazing, wonderful thing that is made, basically, the greatest thing that I have ever achieved, right? Having children is magical and wonderful. And yes, I feel that society should go back to the way it was, where we were a lot more family-focused and orientated. And basically, things need to change not just socially, but also economically to make it financially possible for people to survive on one income and be able to afford a house and have all the other standard things that, you know, all the boomers fucking got, so that they can actually have children. Because that's the main reason. The main reasons are social, but then also it's just not financially viable for a lot of people. And that is really fucking unfair. And I don't like it. Anyway, fuck anti-natalists. Have kids.